welcome to episode number 43 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM at iHeartRadio. My name is Jason Fanelli, and I am the Esports and Gaming Insider for Fox PHL The Gambler. Coming at you tonight after a long night of professional wrestling, long couple nights of professional wrestling actually, with NXT TakeOver. I record these on Thursday nights, so I watched the first 2 nights of Wrestlemania week with NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver, night 1 and 2. Both of them blew my mind. Only 5 matches in each one, but each match presented something a little bit different. All were very entertaining in their own way. There were some that I wasn't as interested in as others, but definitely a lot of good wrestling so far, with more to come throughout the weekend. And we'll get into wrestling a little bit towards the end of the show, but not in a let's talk about WrestleMania sort of thing, just a segment in tribute of WrestleMania happening this weekend. But before we do anything else, let's get right into the 6 in 60 seconds. The Philadelphia Fusion signed Hotba and Toby in preparation for next week's season opener after announcing visa issues with some of their foreign players. Street Fighter V's spring update confirms Rose for April 19, with new Oro and Akira gameplay also being shown. E3 has announced it's going all digital for E3 2021, June 12th to the 15th, with Nintendo, Xbox, and Capcom among those already signed on. MLB The Show 21 will be released on Xbox Game Pass on day 1, April 20th, coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Arcane Studios' next game, Deathloop, has been delayed to September 14th from May 21st. And finally, Streets of Rage 4 will be adding a DLC chapter, Mr. X Nightmare, with 3 new characters, a survival mode, and more. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. There they are, folks, the 6 in 60 seconds. And as always, they are brought to you by the sponsor for Cheesesteaks and Controllers, Ghost Shaver. The Ghost Shaver is designed to feel like it's an extension of your arm, allowing users to reach anywhere on your head, face, or body. The precision cutting system gives you a close and smooth shave every single time. With multiple rotary blades and a patented handheld design, go to ghostshaver.com to get yours. Ghost Shaver, a shave above the rest. Yes, folks, those were the 6 and 60 for the week, and a lot of stuff coming up here. The Fusion next week. I can't wait. Next week, I'm going to blow out with a big Fusion preview. Now that the team is starting to look a little more rounded out. I thought I had done one before, a meet the roster sort of thing, but they're still adding people. They're going to be adding people probably right up to the final bell. That first match on April 17th, circled on my calendar for months. Finally going to be able to talk about what's going on with the Fusion coming soon. But tonight I want to go over a couple of things that are happening in the world of esports, specifically League of Legends. There's a big tournament this coming Sunday called the Mid-Season Showdown. Now what that's going to be is it's going to be a small, mini tournament between 6 different teams. One of 100 Thieves are there, Evil Geniuses are there, Dignitas are there, TSM, Team Liquid, and Cloud9 also there. A couple of matches have already been played so far. We've had we're now down to the final 3 from 6. We're down to Team Liquid and Team Solo Mid playing in the loser side, with Cloud9 waiting for them in the winner side. So these last three teams will kick off on Sunday, April 11th, with the winner being selected to represent the LCS, or the League Championship Series, the North American League of Legends, in the Mid-Season Invitational 2021, which is a major tournament held by League of Legends Esports and Riot Games, where 12 teams from 12 different leagues throughout the world will participate. One team from every league will be around. It includes smaller leagues like the PCS or the TCL, and bigger leagues like LCS here in North America, LEC in Europe, and the Korean and Chinese leagues. One team, like I said, from all 12 leagues will participate in 3 separate rounds. The first one is group stage, where they are drawn into 3 groups based on seeding with a double round robin. They play each other team twice. Matches are best of 1, so if you win, you win. You lose. And the top 2 teams from each group advance to stage 2. Stage 2 is, again, another double round robin with the top 2 teams from each of those 3 previous groups, so 6 teams total. Matches are, again, best of 1. And the top 4 teams from the Rumble stage will advance to the knockout stage, which is a single best-of-5 elimination bracket coming out with the final winner. So that's what's coming up with MSI. But let's focus now on the mid-season showdown. Like I said, there are 3 teams remaining, all 3 of them being perennial powerhouses in the world of League of Legends. Cloud9, Team Liquid, and Team Solo Mid. Team Solo Mid, you may recall, was the number 1 team from the LCS last year in Worlds 2020. And then they didn't win a single match. So maybe we're not going to talk about what happened to them all that much. But of the 3 teams that are here right now, I have to say, Team Solo Mid might actually be the most interesting. So this match that they're in right now against Team Liquid is a rematch from the winner's bracket, the first match of the winner's bracket, where TSM actually faced off against Team Liquid and lost 3-1. They lost 3-1 in that first round. Team Liquid then went on to lose to Cloud9 to force this matchup that we're going to have on Sunday, with Cloud9 then advancing from the winner's side. TSM lost to Team Liquid and then beat Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves 3-1 to get where they are now. And honestly, like I was saying before, of these teams that are left, Team Solo Mid is the one that really sticks out to me as interesting. This is a team that I feel like has a lot to prove. They have a big chip on their shoulder after what happened last year. I feel like they want to get in there and figure out what's going on or what happened, or redeem themselves after what happened last year. They have a lot of good players on their active roster right now. I like their top laner, Huni. He's a great player to watch, a Korean player that joined just this past November after the season. Spica and Power of Evil are another great couple of players. Spica, the jungler, and the Power of Evil, the mid laner. But for me, Team Solo Mid lives and dies with Sword Art, their support player, who joined the team just after Worlds last year, also in November. Sword Art to me is one of the best players on the team and one of the best team players remaining in the mid-season showdown. I am really, really interested to see how he shows himself in this mid-season showdown. Because like I said, without him, I don't know what TSM would be doing. Moving on to Team Liquid. Team Liquid obviously has the advantage of having already beaten TSM in this tournament. And they also have one of the top 2 players for mid-season showdown MVP in Alpharai, their top laner named Barry Morris. I want to pick Team Liquid here because they already beat them. That's probably the safe pick. But again, that Team Solo Mid, something about them just really, really sticks out to me between Sword Out and Huni and the other players on the team. Then again, you can never really count out the support team on a support player on Team Liquid either. That's Core JJ. Core JJ, one of the best players in all of League of Legends at the moment. This is a stacked team on Team Liquid, so again, don't hold my feet to the fire too much in picking TSM. If Team Liquid were to move on to face Cloud9 in the finals, it would not really be that big a surprise. I'm basically flipping a coin here, but for whatever reason, TSM sits well with me. And then you have Cloud9, who, honestly, I don't think either team beats them. I think Cloud9 is a safe bet to be representing America in the mid-season invitational. I just think they're too good. I think they do things way too well. I think they're really hard to stop in everything that they do. I just wonder who is going to top them in the LCS, not only in the mid-season showdown, but going forward after the MSI and getting into the summer split before Worlds. Do not be surprised if Cloud9 also represents the American leagues in the Worlds 2021 when it gets to be that time. Because the way they're playing right now, they're very tough to beat. They're just mowing through teams left and right. They beat 100 Thieves 3-0 and Team Liquid 3-1 in this tournament. So if Team Liquid comes out over TSM, Cloud9's already beaten them, so they know they can beat them again. I am worried for anybody who has to deal with Cloud9 in that final. And actually, I'm kind of worried about anybody who has to deal with Cloud9 in the mid-season invitational. Now, like I said with Sean Brace on the radio earlier Thursday, the League of Legends scene right now is kind of like how soccer works on a world scale. You can have your MLS and your teams that are very, very good, even in CONCACAF if you want to branch it out a little bit further. Like the Union or MLS and CONCACAF at the moment. But take any of those teams and plop them in La Liga or the Premier League or something like that, and they're going to get turned inside out. It's just how it is. LCS teams are very much the MLS CONCACAF in this situation with the LPL, the LCK, the Chinese and Korean leagues, respectively, and also the European leagues being very much the Premier League of League of Legends. So we have a lot of struggles when we go into international play. Again, like I said earlier, the number one team in the LCS last year at Worlds went winless. The other two teams did pick up a win, FlyQuest and Team Liquid, I believe they were. They did pick up wins here and there. But when your top team is winless, it doesn't really bode well for your entire league as a whole. But for whatever reason, should Cloud9, as I'm predicting, get out of the MSS, I have a feeling they could do a little bit of damage, at least in the group stage of the MSI. I will need to see who comes out from either side, obviously. I need to know the teams. None of the teams seem like they have been decided as of yet. And if the pools stay as they are right now, based on what I'm showing on a League of Legends little schedule here, it looks like the North American teams will pool with the PCS and the VCS. The PCS being Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia, and the VCS being Vietnam Esports. Vietnam has its own league in League of Legends. That's amazing. So playing against the PCS and the VCS could be a bit of a good thing. We'll see how it actually goes on. Now that's the pools. Let me backtrack a little bit. So the pools are where they pull the teams from, and then that's how they make the groups. See, I'm getting myself all backwards here. Let me start again. They're in a pool with the LCS, PCS, and the VCS. So we will not be in the same group as Vietnam or Southeast Asia. That will not happen. However, that does mean that we are going to get stuck with either the LPL, LEC, or LCK in Pool 1. It's nice that they're separating those. I would hate to be in the same group with two or all three of those. That would be a group of death. Group 3 is Latin America, Turkey, which also has its own league, and the LCL, which is Russian. They don't really worry me all that much. Latin America's teams are very good, but other than that, not really fearing them. And then Brazil, Japan, and Oceania make up the fourth group. So we could very well be in a group that contains Brazil, Latin America, and one of China, Europe, and Korea. No matter how you slice it, that's a tough draw. It doesn't matter who we get from Pool 1 in our pool. They're tough draws. So do I think that we could make a splash on the international stage? Yes, I do. Do I think it's going to happen? No. We can. We could. But some of the teams are just too good. And if we get stuck with a pool of death, we will certainly be the ones to die. I don't want to be all doom and gloom in that regard. As you can see, just trying to describe how this works to you, I get a little confused at times with League of Legends, still trying to learn it right now. But it's just a very, very tough arena out there for the LCS. And it's going to take a lot more work to get to where those other leagues are. But right now, all we have to worry about is the end of the midseason showdown this Sunday, April 11th, starting with Team Liquid versus Team Solo Mid, and then the winner of that taking on Cloud9 for the right to represent the North American League Championship Series at the Midseason Invitational 2021. And again, I am choosing Cloud9. I am going with Cloud9 to win this. I feel like they are the ones that will take the mantle and move on to the MSI. And then from there, I'll have to see how the groups go. I'll have to see how the groups are selected. I'll have to see how the groups are handled. And then we'll go from there. So, looks like we are in Group C. They might have been picked already. And we are with Korea, Latin America, and Japan. 2 out of the 3 I was worried about are in the group with us. Oh boy, that's scary. If you're an American League of Legends fan, you don't have a lot to look forward to, unfortunately. But let's go. Let's do it. Come on, Cloud9. Represent us. Represent us in the MSI. I would love to see you win. All right, our next guest on the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast presented by Fox PHL The Gambler is the CEO, the top of Nanoleaf, an excellent company who until a couple of weeks ago I was completely off the radar on. And then an email that made its way into my inbox is now one of the most fascinating things in Cheesesteaks and Controllers Central here in my basement. These Nanoleaf tiles that I am looking at right now are still mesmerizing about 12 hours after I've put them up, maybe 15 hours after I've put them up. And with me now is the creator and the CEO of the company, Gimmy Chu. Jimmy, how are you today?
Hey, pretty good, Jason. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So I want to get into the idea process for this technology because obviously, LEDs are a big part of gaming right now. If you look at the high-end PCs, it's like looking into a Spectrum or a Prism. And you have decided to put them on the wall, kind of take LED backlighting and into its next evolution. So walk me through the process of how this was devised.
Well, we started off as a solar company, and then we wanted to get into LED lighting. We knew that it was really energy efficient, and then we created our first claim to fame was we created the world's most energy efficient light bulb. We ran it on Kickstarter. It was called Nanolight at the time. But yeah, that was a big success for us. We raised about $273,000. This was like almost 10 years ago. But then after that, we started thinking, why does light have to come from a light bulb? It doesn't make any sense, and then when you dig into it a little bit further, the light bulb was actually inspired by the candle. If you think about it, you had a candle, like afterwards they had this filament light, and then they kind of flipped it upside down, put it on your ceiling, and then you had this big glowing candle on your roof, basically. But then, if we were to reinvent that, how would we be able to do it better? Right, and what's the best source of light that we have as humans? It's the sky. When you imagine being outside and it's just like you're kind of engulfed in light, and you have this like fully diffused light source that just looks and feels beautiful, and it makes you feel good. So we're like, okay, well, how do we actually recreate that inside the home? And that's when we started thinking about, well, how do we create really diffused light within on your walls, make it modular so that you could have it as big or as small as you want. And then as we were developing that, we were like, well, triangles look way cooler than squares, so let's start with that.
That's true.
Yeah, and then there was other things like, it's like, well, if you look at the sky, like if you think about the sunrise or the sunset or like, the northern lights, you get all these different spectrums of color. So we wanted to introduce that. Like it wasn't necessarily like targeted towards the gaming RGB crowd. But then that was just kind of an added benefit that the gamers loved it, right? And now we're made famous by all those Twitch users that are always streaming with our panels in the background.
That's right, and they are very striking. I guess I didn't realize they were yours until the box showed up at my house here. So one of my main questions is, how did you come up with the technology to connect them? One of the big things about this is the pure customization of the whole thing. You see like streaks of triangles and hexagons coming off to one side of one person's desk. I have it perfectly symmetrical because that's just how I am, on my back wall with 5 hexagons
pointing up and 5 hexagons pointing down, meeting on the sides. The customization part of this, the originality part, is very interesting. Where did that come in the creative process?
Well, we wanted to make it modular, and we wanted to make it super user-friendly.
Sure.
So we felt like, if you're making it modular, then all of a sudden you have all these, like, just almost a limitless amount of possibilities of how people are going to be putting these things together. So we created something called layout detect functionality, which enables you to, however you put it together in the physical world, you'll see it in the app in that same design. And it's almost like in real time, like as you're adding additional panels on, the app will detect it, and then you'll actually be able to see this two-dimensional layout of whatever you created on your wall. And then with that, it gives you the ability to do all these really cool scenes that are layout dependent, right? So if you think about like doing the wave in a stadium,
yep.
Right? Like, why is it that looks so cool? Well, it's because every person sitting on the stadium knows where they are relative to everyone else.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you do this wave, and it just kind of creates this effect across the whole stadium, it looks really cool. And with our panels, you're able to do effects like that. You could have colors flow from left to right, from right to left. You could have them burst from the middle. You could have these kind of like fireworks types of effects. And it's just, the more, like, we're all about creating things just because they're cool, and it gets people excited, it gets our team excited, and then yeah, like it ended up looking really, really cool, and I think that's what added to our popularity right now.
Yeah, I agree. My setup right now is actually doing the slow from right to left movement through all of the colors, a lot like the wave, as you mentioned. So let it be said that at least one thing positive has come from the wave at football and baseball stadiums, and not just a lot of people griping about them. So you said you started with triangles. When did hexagons start to become part of your plan? Because these right here seem like, I thought you were going to tell me that hexagons were first, and then you went into triangles, but it's the other way around. So when did hexagons start being part of the plan?
We launched hexagons last year.
Okay.
Yeah, last year was kind of that evolution, and triangles, actually, like, with enough triangles, you're able to create a hexagon.
True.
But of course, it becomes like a really big hexagon depending on the, So we wanted to introduce hexagons. Hexagons are really cool too, because they're like they're based off of like honeycombs,
yep.
And you can create really cool designs on the wall. We introduced like a whole line called shapes. And it has the hexagon, it has the big triangles, it has little mini triangles, and we're allowing people to just kind of piece all these different shapes together to create their own designs. But yeah, the shapes are really cool. I think everyone has their own taste for what they want. Some people like square, and we have something called the canvas that actually supports that. But the squares and the hexagons and the triangles don't really go together, so it depends on what kind of look you're looking for.
Yeah, that's true. And it does cater to a lot of different designs. It caters to a lot of different tastes. So it's very flexible in that regard. Speaking of, are there any streamers or YouTubers or content creators where you see their panels that have, your panels, where they have particularly awesome setups? Like, are there any like that still stick in your mind after you saw it for the first time? Wow, this looks really cool.
Oh, there's just so many. I love the abstract ones where it just creates like either something like symmetrical or something just a little bit asymmetrical to make it look cool. Sometimes people make like designs of actual things. Like someone made like a baby Yoda, and it was so cool. I'm sure if you Google it, you could find it. But the baby Yoda looked so cool. We actually reached out to them and asked them if we could like replicate that for some of our marketing material. There was some that were made for Jurassic Park, so they made like just actual dinosaurs.
That's cool.
In our office, we created one that looked kind of like Yoshi from Super Mario Brothers. So
that's cool.
It was pretty cool. So like our developers always like do testing on Yoshi. So it's new scenes that they create, they just test it on Yoshi.
Okay, color scenes. If you say testing on Yoshi, that could be pretty bad. Poor Yoshi, right? You're strung up in a lab somewhere.
Is he on fire yet? No.
No, God. I tried to make a cheesesteak out of these tiles for cheesesteaks and controllers, but I just couldn't figure it out, so I went with the symmetrical pattern. So I want to get into another feature of this that I think is actually very cool for even the younger ages, and that's the touch-based games. Now, I haven't had a chance to check them out myself yet, but can you walk me through a little bit of how the touch games work?
Yeah, so each one of our panels have like a capacitive touch sensor on there. So as you touch them, you could trigger different things, and we thought, how it would be kind of cool if you created games, right? So the simpler games are stuff like the memory games, where I think there's one called Simon, where it would just one panel would flash, then two panels would flash, and you gotta kind of remember the sequence of them. There was like whack-a-mole. That's always popular with the young people. Like, like just different panels would light up and you got to like whack them in order to like turn them off. If you create a grid format, you could actually play Pac-Man. So like you have this yellow flashing panel, and then you could actually like swipe like left to the right or right to the left and like have the little Pac-Man go different directions to eat all the white light boxes. We went a little crazy. Like if you have a big enough grid, you could play Candy Crush.
Wow!
But for that you need like a square
wall.
Grid.
Yeah.
Like and we have that in our office. We have like a wall of like 500 panels all set up for testing.
Poor Yoshi.
Yeah. It's a little, like, I would say it's a little excessive, but it's kind of fun at the same time. Sometimes we do like little pop-up events where we let kids come and play whack-a-mole, and you work up a sweat, and then it shows you a score too. So if you do whack-a-mole, cool. Like it'll kind of light up squares along your setup, and the more squares that it lights up, then that means the higher your score. So if you compete with your friend or something like that, you could actually see like, who got the bigger score. It's really rudimentary, but it's like it's just kind of like an added feature on top of these light panels and we did it because we could. It was really cool.
Yeah. Now, do you think? Well, I mean, you saying that you have 500 panels in your office might be a little excessive, but it kind of makes sense. Someone out there is bound to buy enough of these kits so they can make an entire room of their house these things. So if you have to test on, 500, 600 panels, it makes a lot of sense. You have to account for the, people who love your product so much, they're going to fund your entire year putting these all over their house. But so I wonder now what is next for Nanoleaf. You have the hexagons and the triangles, and these are modular for the wall. I guess they technically could be ceiling lights, but I haven't really seen that utilized yet in my research. Plus, plugging them in from the ceiling will probably be a chore unless you have a plug up there. Have you thought about ceiling lights, or what might be next for Nanoleaf that you can talk about?
Yeah, well, last year we also introduced light bulbs and light strips.
Okay.
So that was kind of our first entry into kind of generic everyday lighting. We called it the Essentials series. It's basically, within your home, and when you think about lighting, you need different types of light sources for different applications. And sometimes you just need functional light. So that's where the light bulbs and light strips comes in. We've been working on new technology. So the light bulbs and the light strips, we did a partnership with Apple, and we use a new technology called Thread. So this is, you could think Bluetooth, you could think Zigbee, or Wi-Fi. This is an evolution on top of that. And Apple was the first to introduce it with the HomePod Mini. So this gets really, really technical. But later this year, we're doing that same partnership with Google as well. So Google is introducing Thread with their Home Hubs and their Home Hub Maxes. Like the devices on the market today already contain Thread radios. They just need the software to be able to support it.
Okay.
So that's something that we've been working really hard on. Ultimately, at Nanoleaf, we want to create products and technology that don't exist on the market today. So we're always looking to kind of push the boundaries of where tech is now in order to create really cool experiences. So for our light bulbs and our light strips, like if you use our app, you could actually have them kind of synchronize with our panels so that they they kind of cycle through different colors and do these little simplified scenes, because it's kind of a single light source rather than a whole array of light sources. But yeah, like our vision on it is, we do a lot of collaborations with gaming companies, so we have like a screen mirroring app where, if you're playing some games on your computer, like you could have the panels actually flash in the same lights as whatever's on your screen. We have partnerships with the Razer where it works with their Chroma platform.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a Razer keyboard. I'm going to have to check that out. Interesting.
We're still working on the one for the Shapes product line. So if you have the hexagons, that's going to come out later on this year. But cool. Our original triangles and our original squares, they do work with the Chroma platform, and it just lags a little bit behind because the Shapes product line is just so new.
Sure.
But yeah, that's for sure. That's coming, and that's really cool too. Because like if you get blown up by a bomb, sometimes you have explosions on your panels. It just creates a more immersive effect, and honestly, it just looks cool. Like I feel like I game a lot, and I like just gaming with my light panels on, and it's just like you just feel like kind of in the zone, right?
I did that last night for the first time. I put them up as soon as the kids went to bed. I put them up, and I threw on some Fortnite with the guys, and I'm like, this is awesome. I should have done this a long time ago. One other thing I wanted to get into too, another thing that I tested when I tweeted a video of my panels at Big Man Fanelli on Twitter, the sound functionality where it reacts to the sound in the room. So I'm playing a song and all the tiles are bouncing, back and forth. The one thing I did note is that it picked up all sound, not like so when I'm going to admit this, when I called my mom to show her on FaceTime what these were doing, as we're talking, it's bouncing in the cadence of our voice. Is there or will there be a way so that you can, kind of like how you said, it'll match up to the sounds of the game, it can match up to your music without having other sound interference?
So we had that in our original rhythm module.
Okay.
We had basically an aux in, right?
Sure.
So if you have an aux in, then it only listens to whatever's coming in from the aux cable.
Right.
But then, who still uses aux cables to play music?
That's true.
Right? And so the other option is, well, what if we just have it stream the sound stuff from either a computer or a phone? Well, then there's lag on the network, and it's just not as instantaneous. And it's not as simple, right?
That's
like
fair.
You might be capable of running some application in order to have it sync, and you might be okay with doing that whole pairing process. But for the average consumer, they don't actually want to whip out their phone when they want something to work. They just want to click a button.
That's true.
And it's starting to run. So, we wanted to keep it super simple for consumers, and some people like the fact that it goes through a microphone instead, because one, you don't get any lag. Two, it works with live music. So, a lot of musicians playing the guitar, it just looks gorgeous, right? There's this one YouTuber that I found, and he has an entire wall of these light panels, and he just plays the most beautiful guitar, and you feel the whole room dancing, and that's something that people don't realize why they like our products so much. It's it makes your room come to life. A room that is otherwise just kind of set in a certain way.
Sure.
When you turn off all the lights and you have these different colors bouncing off all the walls, and it's reacting to sound, it feels like the entire room is dancing.
That's so cool. And it is. Right now, I see these different colors washing over me, and I feel energized. I feel calmed by the blues. It is very, very cool technology. If you are listening to this and you would like to see more of it, please go to Nanoleaf, that's NANOLEAF.me, and check out what they have going on. The hexagons, as I said on my wall, I can personally vouch for. The light bars I'm looking at on their website are pretty cool. Wouldn't mind one or two of those under my television. It all syncs up to your home app on your phone or on the Nanoleaf app itself, so it's very easy to use. And I am very happy to have had Gimmy Chu here talking to us about the product. Jimmy, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with everything, and I hope to talk to you again in the future.
Thanks a lot, Jason.
Finally, tonight on the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, we are going to have a segment that's going to be a little bit of fun. Obviously, we try to have fun all the time here on the show, but I wanted to do things a little bit different. Originally, my plan was to compare video game wrestlers to current wrestling and see who would fit the best, but that's kind of that topic is not really going as far as I want it to. Tried it a couple of times, just a little peek behind the curtain. Tried it a couple of times, didn't sound very interesting or fun or anything like that. So let's just talk about the best wrestlers in video games, shall we? It is Wrestlemania weekend. We are having a good time. 2 nights of Wrestlemania, Saturday and Sunday, 6 matches each. 3.5 hours each per show, apparently, is the targeted time. So we'll see how that goes. But I figured we'd take some time tonight to talk about the best wrestling characters in all of video games. And I will be honest, most of these come from fighting games, and having a fighting game background, that makes the most sense for me. There are some notable ones left out. I'm only doing 5 here. So you're not going to hear about Starman from Pro Wrestling, as cool as he is. Fortunately, I had to leave out Max from Streets of Rage. My favorite character from Streets of Rage 2 did not make the cut. But I am going to talk about 5 fighting game wrestlers, all of which actually hold a special place in my heart, because in the fighting games they were in, the ones that were in fighting games primarily, I have mained, or they've been my main character, in at least one version or one iteration of the series that they come from. So you're going to hear a lot of love in this for some of these characters, because I've been playing with them my entire life. And the first one from the world of Tekken, over by Bandai Namco, is King, the Jaguar luchador, Jaguar mask on, and fighting for orphanages in Tekken 2. It's as long as I've been playing him. And his chain grabs are amazing. He can go from a German suplex to a giant swing to all kinds of crazy grab combos. He's got luchador moves where he's doing flips and big kicks. He's got strong moves like his clothesline and his lunge kick. He's got cool counters where he can kick a guy in the stomach and move him right into a DDT that would make Jake Roberts proud. King is an awesome character. If you go back to EVO 2018 videos on demand and check out Lil Majin's gameplay with King, you will be blown away at how good this guy was in that top 8 and leading up to it as King. I'm also going to lump Armor King in here. Armor King is an alternate version of King from the Tekken series, who is a little more powerful, a little bit slower, and a little bit more limited in his chain grabs. Still has plenty of chain grabs, just a little bit limited compared to Real King, or the main King. But either way, King from Tekken, if you ever play Tekken, I would highly recommend you try him out, as he has been one of my favorite characters for a very long time. Moving on to another 3D fighter now, one that is not as omnipresent in the world of fighting games today, but it sounds like it's making its way back, and that's Virtua Fighter. My Virtua Fighter of choice was, is, and will be Wolf Hawkfield. He is a Native American wrestler. His story is, you leave him alone, he'll leave you alone, but as soon as you come to his land, he is coming at you with some of the best pro wrestling and judo moves you can think of. He will drop you on your head. He will clothesline you out of the ring. He will drop kick. He will do all of that. He has always been an awesome, awesome character in my mind. I can still hear the sound of him howling to the sky in victory after beating up one of my friends or one of the hapless guys in the arcades down the shore. Loved Wolf, especially in the first Virtua Fighter, the very, very first game in the series. He was my guy, and was my guy for a very long time. I would dabble with other characters, and like Lion and Virtua Fighter 2, and going from there. But Wolf Hawkfield, one of the coolest wrestling fighting game characters of all time, and one of my personal favorites, and a very, very cool wrestler indeed. The third one, right in the middle here, is actually a character from a wrestling game, but it's not a real wrestler. So WCW vs. NWO World Tour and Revenge came out on the Nintendo 64 before WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy. While it featured actual WCW wrestlers, it also featured some original creations. One of them being a wrestler that donned the colors of one of the development teams called Aki Man. Aki Man is this is basically just a meme, to be completely honest with you. But he was one of the most fun wrestlers in those two games. Eventually he would turn into THQ Man in later games once THQ took over the franchise. But Aki Man or THQ Man, however you know him, just a lot of fun to play as in those wrestling games. A lot of big moves, heavy strikes, easy to learn, hard to master, that sort of character. Had a great entrance, has become an excellent meme for those in the know. And I would love to see Aki Man come back one day in some shape or form. It's not going to happen, just because probably the rights to get him are astronomical. But man, would that be funny. I would really, really laugh seeing Aki Man in some future wrestling game. Maybe like a Retromania wants to try and pick up Aki Man just to bring him in. That'd be sweet. But Aki Man, big fan of yours, my man. Keep it up. Number 4 is a wrestler who was also a politician. And for some of you, you already know who I'm talking about. That is Mayor Mike Hagar from Final Fight. You may not have known that one of the 3 original characters in Final Fight, Hagar, who joined Cody and Guy in that game, was also the mayor of the city. The city that you were traveling through, fighting crime and beating up bad guys, he ran the place. And sometimes the pen just wasn't cutting it. He had to go down there and start clotheslining people and punching them in the face and hitting them with crazy pile drivers. Loved Final Fight. Loved the original Final Fight. I can still hear that music playing in a McDade Mall arcade. The mall's not even there anymore, let alone the arcade. But that song, that intro song, the attract mode song that always played, just holds a special place in my heart. And Mike Hagar is who I used to play as whenever I loaded that game up. They did eventually add him to some fighting games. He came into Marvel vs. Capcom, specifically 3 and Infinite. He became the grappler heavy archetype for that game that Zangief from Street Fighter had filled previously. And he fit in very well. He implemented the throws. He implemented his giant lariat. He implemented some weapons from Final Fight, like the pipe and stuff like that. Definitely fit into fighting games very, very well. But he is also one of my favorite video game wrestlers of all time. I highly recommend you check him out in an underrated wrestling game for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis called Saturday Night Slam Masters. That is a really fun take on pro wrestling. And finally, I feel like we wouldn't be able to talk about this topic. We wouldn't be able to address wrestling characters in video games without talking about a name that I have already mentioned previously, and that is Zangief, or Zangief, however it is pronounced. I'm not entirely sure. But he is the Russian bear, the red cyclone, the giant muscled pro wrestler from the Street Fighter series. Has been there from Street Fighter 2, doing that spinning pile driver, breaking people's necks, his lariat, his big green hand, his crazy physique, his over-exaggerated yells whenever he is taunting or talking to one of the other characters. Just an excellent, amazing wrestler character. One that I think would fit in quite well in the WWE today. Particularly with, in a program against Braun Strowman or something like that. Zangief is just a universally known, universally loved wrestler character in fighting games. It helps that he's in Street Fighter, one of the most popular fighting games of all time. And he has also dabbled, like Mike Hagar, outside of the series. He was in Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2. He was in Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2. He's seen some iterations like Mecha Zangief where he didn't stop moving if he was hit, so he could just walk through everybody's attacks, that sort of thing. But Zangief is, or Zangief, whatever you want to call him, is definitely one of the most iconic wrestling fighting game characters, or video game characters in general, who are professional wrestlers ever. To the point of where he became, just like the rest of the Street Fighter 2 cast, a household name. People who haven't played video games for a very long time would know the name Zangief if they heard it, or Zangief, however they pronounced it, if they heard it, because he was such a standout character on a roster filled with standout characters back in Street Fighter 2. So, Zangief is another great wrestling character, my favorite wrestling character from gaming of all time. Talked about King and Aki Man, Wolfhawk Field, Mike Hagar, Mayor Mike Hagar. A lot of great wrestlers out there. If you haven't played some of these games, I highly recommend it. starting with Virtua Fighter. Like I said, that is coming back soon. So if you want to get caught up on it now, there are a couple of ways to play the old Virtua Fighter games. I suggest you do so. And make sure you play Zangief for a little while. Check out King and Tekken 7. That's worth it as well. And there's a lot of places to find these characters. Aki-Man might be the hardest. You have to go back to the Nintendo 64 to find him. But do it. I highly recommend it. And wrestling video game characters are awesome. And I hope they keep coming for the foreseeable future. And with that, we are at the end of episode 43 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast. As always, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio. My name is Jason Fanelli. I am the Esports and Gaming Insider for Fox PHL The Gambler. I want to thank Jimmy Chu from Nanoleaf for coming on and talking to me about his lighting products. Look up Nanoleaf at nanoleaf.me for more if you like what we talk about today. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope you enjoy Wrestlemania. I hope you enjoy whatever it is that you're going to be watching this weekend. Call of Duty Leagues Major 2, the LCS Midsummer Showdown. Valorant is starting up again. There's a lot to watch. A lot of esports to watch. A lot of real sports to watch. And I hope you enjoy every last bit of it. Again, for Cheesesteaks and Controllers, I am Jason Fanelli. I will talk to you again next week. Same time, same channel. Thanks for everything. Goodbye.